The AP spent weeks documenting how Americans are adapting to the biggest jump in grocery prices in 50 years. The millennial generation has formally split in two, and the dividing line runs roughly through age 35. And a 6-month study of nearly 1,000 workers finds that being comfortable without a career plan predicts better work outcomes than having a detailed plan. While everyone was busy arguing about political nonsense, a bunch of other things happened. I'm Keith Conrad, and this is News Side Quest. The Associated Press ran a major collaborative piece this weekend, produced alongside local newsrooms in Massachusetts, Texas, and Hawaii, that spent weeks with actual grocery shoppers documenting how behavior has changed. Buying food to eat at home has gotten 33% more expensive in U.S. cities since the beginning of 2019, according to government figures. In the 7.5 years before that, prices rose just 6.4%. The historic increase happened for numerous reasons. The COVID-19 pandemic snarled supply lines and raised labor and transportation costs. Droughts, hurricanes, diseases like bird flu drove down production. Tariffs raised prices on foreign products like coffee, tomatoes, chocolate. 50-year-old April Jack of Lexington, Massachusetts, now scouts grocery store apps for deals before she goes to the store, grabs the weekly circular when she arrives, and scratches items from her list if shelf prices look too high. She's not an outlier, she's the norm. The behavioral adaptations the AP documents across 3 different states are consistent. Comparison shopping across multiple stores, returning to couponing that a generation had largely abandoned, switching to store brands, cutting favorite items rather than buying less food overall. One woman in Texas described stopping buying ground beef when prices spiked and shifting to chicken. A small business owner in Hawaii described absorbing cost increases for as long as possible before passing them on to customers. When people adjust their behavior, that seems like a bad sign for the economy. Behavioral change at this scale isn't just an inconvenience, it's a signal of genuine demand destruction. When 61% of Americans have changed what they buy at the grocery store, the brands, the products that used to be in those carts are losing customers they may never get back, because habits that form under financial pressure tend to persist even when the pressure eases. The shift to store brands in particular has been historically sticky. I remember my great aunt talking to me about how the Great Depression changed her shopping habits for literally the rest of her life. The war in Iran has made it uncertain if a slowdown in price increases expected this year will actually materialize. The energy costs that flow from that conflict into transportation and production costs are still working their way through the system at this point. So what have you actually changed? Not what you're thinking about changing, but the thing that you actually stopped buying or started doing differently at the grocery store.
We got no food, we got no jobs. Our pets' heads are falling off!
Fortune published a major piece on Friday drawing a new Federal Reserve and National Association of Realtors data that confirms something that's been building in the numbers for years now. The millennial generation has split into 2 economically distinct groups, and the line runs roughly through age 35. Older millennials, now ages 36 to 45, including me, have become the highest earning buyer segment in the housing market, posting a median household income of $132,000. They are increasingly functioning as repeat equity leveraging buyers rather than first-timers, buying the largest homes at a median 2,100 square feet, and in almost every measurable way now look less like the struggling young buyers they once were and more like the baby boomers they spent years resenting. The mechanism driving this transformation is home equity. Millennials' total net worth has nearly quadrupled since 2019, rising from $3.9 trillion to $15.9 trillion in just 5 years. But roughly $2.5 trillion of that increase came directly from home price appreciation among millennials who already owned property. The younger half of the generation, ages 27 to 35, is living a completely different story. Younger millennials saw their share of first-time home purchases plunge from 71% to 60% in a single year. When younger millennials do buy multi-generational homes, cost savings is the driver for 55% of them, far higher than any other generation, and a telling sign of who's making this choice by financial necessity rather than family preference. The Fortune piece uses the phrase back to the early 1900s for the younger cohort of millennials, and the NAR deputy chief economist confirmed that multi-generational living is now rising in ways that resemble pre-World War II America, when extended family households were the norm before the post-war housing boom made single-family home ownership broadly accessible for the first time ever. I seem to have landed on the right side of this dividing line, at least age-wise. We're still renting at the moment, but working on a house. What determined which side you landed on, it wasn't primarily income, education, or work ethic. The NAR has now formally split its millennial data into two groups, because the gap between them had grown too wide to report as a single number. The difference between those two age groups is essentially whether you were positioned to buy a home in 2019 or 2020 before prices rose 34%. That's a timing question, not a character question. And it may prove that I'm on the other end of that line, since we don't own a house yet. Which side of the millennial split do you feel like you're on? And what was the specific thing, a job, a purchase, decision, or just the year you were born that you think put you there?
I weep for the future.
Researchers from the University of Macau and the University of Houston tracked about 1,000 American workers across 3 survey checkpoints over 6 months, measuring what they call career wisdom, a cluster of behaviors that includes making decisions without complete information, trusting intuition, and tolerating vulnerability when career paths feel uncertain. They published the findings in the Journal of Counseling Psychology. Workers who scored higher in career wisdom at the start of the study were more likely to experience their work as meaningful 3 months later, and that sense of meaning predicted higher job satisfaction and stronger engagement at the 6-month mark. For job satisfaction, meaningful work appeared to be doing almost all the work. Career wisdom on its own showed little direct connection to satisfaction. Engagement was different. Meaningful work explained part of why career wisdom boosted engagement, but career wisdom also seemed to fuel engagement in some other ways, perhaps by making people more resilient or adaptable to the job in general. The researchers are careful about what this finding is and isn't about. This is a longitudinal observational study. Basically, it shows a statistical association over time, not proof of cause and effect. It also didn't measure job performance, promotions, or salary. What it measured was well-being at work, and the consistent finding across gender, race, and income level was that comfort with uncertainty predicted better outcomes than rigid adherence to a particular plan. The researchers framed career wisdom as a trainable skill rather than a fixed trait, and they distinguish it from impulsive decision-making. Career wisdom still involves gathering information and weighing options, but it also means knowing when to stop chasing a perfect answer and moving forward with a good enough decision that can be revised later. I had a pretty detailed career plan, and it ultimately didn't work out all that well. The plan involved a specific trajectory in a specific medium that the industry was in the process of dismantling while I was trying to execute the plan. What actually built the career I have was a series of unplanned decisions, relocation, a pivot, a conversation that led somewhere I hadn't quite considered yet. The research is describing basically that sort of thing. What's the best unplanned thing that ever happened in your career? The thing that happened sideways or by accident or because a door closed and you ended up somewhere else.
What's his plan?
His plan?
Russians don't take a dump, son, without a plan.
A father is refusing to allow his mother-in-law to bring her emotional support peacock into his house again. following a previous visit that apparently went poorly. If an animal can't demonstrate the training required to function as a service animal, it should just stay home. I also want to note that peacocks are large, loud, and have strong opinions about their surroundings. The father's position seems completely defensible here.
Agreed?
A South African family called for help, believing there was a black mamba in their bedroom, and when rescuers arrived, they found something completely different. A cobra in the bed. There simply aren't enough nopes. I'd never be able to sleep in that house ever again.
Snakes. Why did it have to be snakes?
A person dressed as Spider-Man helped a man in a wheelchair cross a street in what appears to have been a spontaneous act of assistance while in full costume. It would have been a little bit more impressive with webs shooting everywhere.
Look out! Here comes the Spider-Man!
Measles cases in the U.S. have surpassed last year's totals, with months still to go, hitting a milestone that public health officials describe as deeply concerning given that measles was effectively eliminated in this country in 2000. Wouldn't it be nice if there were some way people could avoid getting measles?
Oh, that's a good idea!
That's it for new side quests. 3 questions to open your week. The specific grocery habit you changed, which side of the millennial split you feel like you're on and what put you there, and the best unplanned thing that ever happened in your career. Email me at newsidequest or pay a visit to the Substack comments. See you tomorrow.